Stanley Kunitz was the tradition. He was the second to last year he was going to teach, and I was my second semester, second year, and Stanley always taught a workshop for those people, along with there were the 2 other workshops, or maybe even 3 other ones. And I signed up for his workshop, and the secretary of the program came up to me and very kindly said, you know, Marie, I think that you would be happier with this professor. Stanley's really very old. He's 75. I said, you know, I think I'll stick with him. I hadn't met him. I walked into the room, I sat down. Stanley was at the head of the table. I sat down to his left, next to him. And Stanley was, give me your piece of paper. Stanley was doing this. And I thought, that man is feeling the paper between his fingers. He's actually here. You know what I mean? He was just doing this. I'm like, oh my God. And I said, I'm staying right here. I'm sitting right in this chair. This person's actually here. Physically here. It was rare, as you know, to meet someone who's really here. And there he was. And he was a very minimal teacher. I mean, now, I've been teaching for 30 years, we totally overfunction. But back in old school, you know, somebody would read their poem, everybody would go blah, 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 blah. And then Stanley would say 3 to 4 sentences that were like, you know, the Zen master, you know. We'd all go, wow. I went to see him every single week. He was in his office hours. He'd be sitting in an empty room behind a desk, and I would say, knock, knock, Mr. Kunitz. And every single week I brought him a poem. And over time, then I graduated, and then I went to the Work Center as a fellow, and I just loved him. And we ended up, we became very close friends over the next 25 years. And it was so healing for me in so many ways. And I think for him too. We were just really close. We traveled together a lot. I brought him, when he had to travel, I would go with him. He stayed at my apartment in Cambridge when he read in Harvard. I mean, all my friends would come over. Here's a great Stanley story. So he would read, and then we'd all come back to my apartment, and we'd all have a big dinner and drink and drink and drink till late, late, late. You know, Stanley telling stories, and then finally around midnight or 1 o'clock, everybody would leave, and my boyfriend lived in the same building, and I would be ready to go. I'd set him all up, good night, he was going to sleep in my bed, and I'd scrubbed it for days, and I was about to leave, and I would turn around after closing the door, and he would go, let's look at some poems. Like, are you kidding me? It's 1 in the morning. Stanley would be like, you know, 86, 88, 90. I'm like, really? I'd make him a cup of coffee, we'd sit and talk about poems, and then finally I'd leave around 2.